Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of There Will Be Expletives. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And as you can tell, I recently moved with Ron's help. That's why I look like I'm in a completely different, less shitty location.
Yeah, it's still, I helped you move, and it still took me aback when the video turned on, and I was like, oh, yeah, you are in a different place.
Someone kidnapped Geoff.
You're actually using your desk that you had and had no way to really use comfortably.
Yep, it is pretty nice. I'm not going to lie. I've
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say before we start, can I just give a little PSA?
Shoot.
If you're considering getting any vaccines this year, I highly recommend the shingles vaccine.
Oh, Ron, you have been on quarantine like you're an actual character in a fucking Resident Evil movie. Like,
it's fucking awful, dude. And
you have like a delayed onset case of 2016 that waited until 2017 January.
2016 never affected me personally, but there was favorite actors passing away and shit like that hurt, but nothing actually affected me and my family personally. In the course of a month, I've had the flu, I've had shingles, which I currently have. My daughter had an ear infection, and a couple of celebrities passed away. John Hurt and Mary Tyler Moore. Like, just go fuck yourself, 2017. I'm already done with you.
Mine was 2016 hurt not only because of the celebrity deaths and stuff, but I just had a shitty 2016 all the way through. So I think it's crazy how everything horrible was delayed for you into this year. Because good God, I could not wait for 2017.
What brought that on, by the way? I had to go to Walgreens last night to look for some relief because it's like a severe sunburn and like your clothes are rubbing it and stuff.
Yeah, my grandma has it.
Yeah,
I think she has it because isn't it like potentially chronic?
Not shingles. Eczema is though.
Okay.
They're both the chickenpox virus, but shingles. What's interesting is the way it was worded on the .gov website I was looking at was getting shingles the first time drastically reduces your chances of getting it the second time.
Can you get it if you have chickenpox? Like, did you not ever have chickenpox?
I had chickenpox. That's why I have shingles now.
Huh.
Chickenpox, the virus stays with you. So
That's shitty.
I have become an overnight expert on fucking shingles. But what brought it on was I went to Walgreens because the one that I go to is 24 hours a day because the hospital's nearby, and got some relief. And then I was going to look for, I've got 3-month-old children, and chickenpox is a very big deal for an infant. So I don't want to give them chickenpox, but I am their caretaker during the day when my wife's at work. So I was going to look for like long sleeve shirts or, something like that. And the first fucking thing I see when I walk in Walmart is a big sign that says, get your vaccines here. It was flu and then shingles. That was the first two on the list. And
I didn't even know they had a vaccine for that.
I was like, go fuck yourself, Walmart. I don't need your sass.
Well, I think you alluded to the first thing we're going to talk about today, and that is the passing of Sir John Hurt, and that's the real big one that so far has been pretty devastating. It's just, you want to talk about, like, if there was a Mount Rushmore of genre actors, like we're talking sci-fi, fantasy, horror, stuff like that, to me, John Hurt is clearly on the Mount Rushmore. We could do an entire separate podcast just about his career. I mean, you want to talk Alien, V for Vendetta, Hellboy, Harry Potter. He was in Indiana Jones. He actually had a small role in Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
He was when I was doing a little bit of research into his IMDb page, he played Aragorn in the animated Lord of the Rings movie from the 70s. Like any geek property you can think of, he was associated with. Yeah, Doctor Who, what you did alluded to earlier. It's just, man, it's such a shame. I think
one of my favorite movies too, which is kind of underappreciated because sometimes you watch it in school, but 1984.
Yeah.
You want to talk like people, especially the podcast that you and I listen to pointed to Elephant Man, which is, I want to say, a good movie. It's well done, but
A good sad movie.
Yeah, you don't exactly walk away feeling good. But people talk about that his performance in that, and don't get me wrong, that's pretty amazing. But 1984 is kind of what I think of when I think of his acting ability.
I still need to actually. That was funny enough. I read so many books in school because I was actually in like the AP English courses for a few years, and for whatever reason, I read Fahrenheit 451, but we never had to read 1984. I actually have 1984, the book, on the way from Amazon, so I'm gonna be reading it, and then after I read it, I'm gonna be watching your copy of it, I think.
Yeah, it's a very, very good movie. It's very well done, adaptation wise and everything, but it's kind of a one-man show a little bit. I mean,
okay.
yeah, he's set, in a town and everything. It's not quite The Martian, but the camera is pretty much always on him and just kind of always follows him. And since it's always just kind of him by himself, you and I talk about actors that can say everything without saying anything, and it's a lot of that with him.
I plan on watching that, and I also do want to watch The Elephant Man because I actually haven't seen that either. And
I have not seen it in years. I even forgot it was a thing until Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman were talking about it.
It pissed me off retroactively about the Academy Awards because he got nominated for that movie.
He deserved any nomination he ever received. He deserved to win.
Well, no, what pissed me off was like the winner that year. I went back and looked on IMDb. They gave the award to Robert De Niro for Raging Bull. That's like, dude, I'm not saying it wasn't a good performance. Dude's playing a boxer versus that performance in The Elephant Man, where he's literally having to act through those prosthetics day in and day out, and then
you heard that clip? How powerful just the audio from that
just
clip
the audio
was.
Like the dude could barely. I mean, I know that's part of the performance too, but he literally couldn't talk fully through the prosthetics, and it's like, really. It's one of those things where it's like, come on, guys. But I mean, we could go down the list on and on of his career, but
one of my absolute favorite concepts to ever come out of Doctor Who is the War Doctor. You know that I am a sucker for anything War Doctor. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we actually.
Come on.
I told Ron I had found that when I went to Think Geek, like the week before he had passed away. I was like, Ron, they have the War Doctor as a Funko. You were like, buy that shit.
I believe my exact text was, buy the fuck out of that, and I will pay you back. Which I did with pizza.
Originally, thank you. Originally, I was upset that they weren't able to get Eccleston back because I really wanted to see Day of the Doctor. Was that Day of the Doctor? Was that the special name? The special?
Yes.
They had so many blank of the Doctor that I get them all mixed up on the names. But
it was the big three for that season was Night of the Doctor, which is a YouTube special. It's like 7 minutes. Then it's Day of the Doctor, and then Time of the Doctor, and that was when he regenerated into Capaldi.
Okay. Yeah, originally I was upset that they weren't able to get Eccleston back because I wanted to see the three. I wanted to see Eccleston, Matt Smith, and David Tennant, but now
I want to say I saw somewhere a long time ago that Moffat said the original concept for the War Doctor was supposed to be Eccleston.
Yeah, originally they I think even kind of had to make it up at the 11th hour because I think they had originally planned he was going to be available for it, but I want to say Thor 2's schedule ended up making him too busy for it, but. Now I'm glad that it didn't happen because we ended up getting John Hurt. Because what's crazy is the War Doctor is so popular amongst the fans, and he feels like he had such a massive impact. He wasn't really a part of the show for very long, but he was. Yeah. John Hurt is just so good. It's like no matter how little his amount of screen time is, he makes an impact on everything.
Yeah.
Alien.
Yeah, dude. To your point, the next thing I was about to say was, as the War Doctor, you could technically say the first time they introduced him is Night of the Doctor on YouTube. But the first time you actually see him canon in the show was the Impossible Girl episode, or whatever the conclusion to that was, when Clara jumped into his timeline.
Yeah.
When he jumps into his own timeline to save her, he finds her already safe and sound, standing behind John Hurt on a burned, scorched planet, which is alluded to being Gallifrey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has like, I don't know what, 4 lines, and his face is on the left side of the screen, and on the right side of the screen it pops up John Hurt as the War Doctor, and you're just like, fuck yes.
Yes, bitch.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, he was only in
Ollivander, right?
He was only, in it for, 3 of the movies, and wasn't on screen for very much, but like he's one of the performances I remember the most from all of those movies.
Yeah. The wand chooses the wizard.
He's just so good. Yeah, he will be missed. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can say. I tell you what, go watch one of his movies this weekend. That's the best way you can pay tribute to him, because that's the best thing about actors and musicians and all these people that we've lost over the last year or so. You can, continually enjoy their work forever. So yeah.
And he kind of, it feels like, lived by Sir Christopher Lee's golden rule of, just because the movie's bad doesn't mean you have to be bad in them, because he does not have a bad performance.
He reminds me a lot of Gary Oldman.
Yes.
Brings 110% no matter what the fuck he's doing, and I will always appreciate about his career.
In all genres. He could act in any genre.
Yep.
So yeah, and we didn't have it in our notes either, but I did want to pay a little bit of respect to Mary Tyler Moore.
Okay.
Also, because she was something of a big deal in her day and age, because what was the Mary Tyler Moore show was kind of unheard of back then. She's single woman making it on her own, and she's got like a real job when most women probably still didn't work in that era to begin with. And it's not just some crappy little job. She was like a big deal in her job. She was influential in her job. And you just didn't see that on television, So
yeah, it was. I mean, not only her actual show, but when she ended up being a big producer behind the scenes, between her show and then between her producing, like she is a big reason sitcoms exist in the way they do even till today.
Yes. Yeah, and that was the other thing too. Not to get a little too South Park, but she proved women can be funny too. That was another thing that you'd never really seen.
They were never given a chance.
Yeah, so. I wanted to pay some respects to her because I grew up watching a lot of Nick at Night. So I watched the Dick Van Dyke Show, and I watched Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
And, I just, I don't know. She did a lot of good charity causes. She did a lot of, like you said, a lot of stuff behind the background. And she kind of disappeared for a little bit, I guess, for health reasons. So you kind of forgot she was around. And then next thing you know, 2017 happened.
Yeah, we Ron and I were talking off cameras a little bit ago, but we don't think years are shitty anymore. Just existence in general is shitty now. We can't qualify it. We can't quantify it or qualify it to a certain year. But yeah, both of them total legends in front of and behind the screen. So they will be missed dearly.
Yes.
All right, Ron. Let's jump into the news this week. We're gonna start off. We had the final Beauty and the Beast trailer. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty strong. The thing I was curious about when I was watching it was what you thought of Beast, because I know originally you weren't too high on Beast's design.
He looks much better in motion, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When he's in that was another thing too. I actually didn't know until this week, researching a little bit more, that Dan Stevens, the main guy from Legion, is playing him, and that's pretty cool because everything I've seen from those Legion trailers so far, he
that's why you suddenly like Beast better.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, I adore the cast assembled behind this movie. I don't know if it's just because it's Beauty and the Beast, and I was never that big of a fan of the cartoon, but I'm still not particularly interested in the movie.
See, I'm the exact opposite, because Aladdin's my first favorite Disney film, and Beauty and the Beast
Ditto.
is my second. So I'm pretty stoked for it.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, it just never really did it for me. It's like if I watch it, I'll eventually maybe watch it on Netflix once because Disney and Netflix has the partnership. I was actually, ironically, like I would say Beauty and the Beast is a much better movie, but I was more intrigued by the Jungle Book
Oh yeah,
adaptation last year. I was more intrigued. I still haven't gotten around to watching that one, but I was more intrigued by its marketing because I feel like the marketing behind Beauty and the Beast isn't quite as good because
it's
the
not.
tra okay, like Jungle Book was actually kind of selling me as kind of this like interesting take on an adapting Jungle Book
Jungle
into
to be honest, Jungle Book had to. I
yeah.
mean, who do you ever talk to that Jungle Book is their favorite Disney property?
Yeah, that's because that builds into my point with these Beauty and the Beast marketing campaign. They are purely like, remember that thing you liked? Well, here it is again. While
Yeah.
Jungle Book to me was a little bit more ballsy with its adaptation. I don't think it'd be bad. Here's the thing: between this cast, because like okay, it's Beauty and the Beast, it's huge. Modern Disney, it's huge. It's live
It's
action,
huge.
it's huge.
It's absolutely huge. The
We're gonna build a
biggest.
wall. We're gonna make Beast pay for it. No, shit. They did the genius thing of adding Emma Watson, so you have all the Harry Potter diehards that are going
Which,
to
by the
go.
way, I have never seen more perfect casting. I don't
Yeah,
think.
she was really good.
Yeah.
She was fortunate to be the one person to actually escape those movies unscathed as far as the kids are concerned. But it is going to make so much money because Jungle Book made a shit ton of money. It had nothing going for it compared to what this movie does. So it is going to be a huge success. Just for me personally, I'm not particularly interested in it.
I know you're gonna at least end up watching it for the cast, if nothing else, because
You did Tucci, McKellen, and McGregor. I will watch it, period, just because of them eventually. I'm just not rushing out to watch it.
yeah, no, it's I hope to see it in theaters. To me, it has some of the best songs out of all the Disney catalog. But they were if you know the animated movie and you watch this trailer, they showed you like all the most memorable scenes from the animated
That
stuff in the
that's
trailer.
that's another reason I was kind of let down. I mean, I get
Yeah.
it because it's smart for them, but it's just as an adaptation, I wasn't particularly
They
impressed by
didn't have to put any effort and energy into it, and they don't have to worry about spoilers because it's Beauty and the
fucking
Beast.
Beauty and the
Everyone's seen
Beast.
it,
Yeah, exactly.
So
Uh, yeah. Let's see. While we're talking about big Disney properties, it's so weird to consider because they are Star Wars are technically Disney movies now, and it's still
yep.
weird for me to say, but we got our first image from the set of Han Solo. It was Chris Miller, one of the directors, tweeted it out. I love the working title. Did you see what the working title is of the movie?
Actually, no, I did not pay attention to that.
It's called Red Cup because of Solo. That
Nice.
joke right there has more charm than the entire prequel trilogy.
That's pretty fucking genius.
And then the caption he put on his tweet, Chris Miller, it said, Han first shot. Again, more
Yeah.
charm and charisma. Like, these guys are fucking tailor made for this movie, and I think it is going to be maybe the best Star Wars movie.
Possibly. It's
just
shaping up to be pretty good.
I mean, every person doing every little bit of this film is perfect for it. So
Yes.
I have huge expectations for it. I cannot wait. So now I think you said a long time ago, like you think the title might just be Solo. I think that should be the title to go with. I would really like that if it's just straight up Solo, a Star Wars story.
I think that would be. I mean, what better way to get your point across than to just call it Solo?
Because it has a double entendre behind it too. Because he's at this stage in his life, he's this young, he's still an asshole. He's gonna be going it alone, and we don't even know up until what point in the movie that he's friends with Chewie. So he could be going it alone for a while. So I cannot freaking wait for it. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about the Han Solo movie?
No, not really. I mean, we report on it every chance we get, but I feel like I say the same thing. I feel like I say the same thing every time, but originally I was just like, oh, that could be cool, but it's like as time has gone on, like you said, everything about that movie is just kind of perfect.
Yeah, the directors and writers are great.
I will be stunned
casting-
if that movie sucks. Absolutely stunned.
Yeah, it was just like we got you some Khaleesi, we got you some Woody goddamn Harrelson, Donald Glover as Lando. It is just all fucking magical, dude. I cannot wait. The last bit of movie news: Ben Affleck confirmed he will not direct the Batman. What was your initial reaction to that?
Honestly, at this point, I'm not really surprised by any news that comes out of the DC movies because like they changed directors and writers and everything so much. At this point, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, Affleck's not directing.
I'm not convinced the Flash movie is actually going to happen now. I'm
Yeah,
not
I agree.
100% convinced. Like Flash, I'm pretty sure I have been listed as a director of the Flash at some point on IMDb. They have gone through so many goddamn directors, and
It's like I don't even have an account, and they had me listed as a director.
yeah,
I know not to, again, like pull from somebody else's material or somebody else's podcast. I already mentioned Kevin Smith once, but he had a really good point of what he thinks the issues with the Flash movie are that I had never actually considered, and that is it's probably every script they've had so far probably looks way too close to the CW show. And I think that's a really, really good point because I'm sorry, I like the Flash, but every page is the guy runs really fast. I mean, there's only so many different things that you could do. Now, you could still be. I'm not saying you can't be creative with it, but it's a lot more difficult with the Flash, I think, than it would be Batman or Superman.
The TV show is showing you that it's hard to come up with shit for the Flash to do because they ran out of ideas last year.
They ran out of ideas in season 2.
Dude, I have seen Ezra Miller's Flash for a combined like 45 seconds. His Flash is way cooler than Grant Gustin's. To no fault of Grant Gustin,
yes,
the Flash is the most unlikable fucking character in his own TV show now. Yeah. He is a self-righteous prick because they have no idea how to write that show anymore, and it fucking shows. I'm actually it's a shame. I'm more interested in the movie. If you tell me Geoff Johns is writing the Flash, I have a hell of a lot more fucking confidence in him.
Right.
Than I do their TV show writer's room now. But anyway, we were totally on top of the Flash. It was my fault for accidentally segueing us. But for Batman, this is actually one of the properties I think has a prayer because they're going with Deathstroke, and I think that's a really, really smart choice. I actually respect Ben Affleck for coming out and actually saying I want to focus on the performance. I think you even have a I don't think I included a quote for him because I wanted to cut down on our time. But basically, he was saying, I don't feel like I will have the time to be able to devote the proper care to both behind the screen and on screen for such a big property as Batman. So he stepped down, and that's big of him to do because he could have directed that movie if he wanted to. Yes. He could have had a Batman movie written, directed, and starring.
I want to say the very same press release that announced the movie announced him as the director and star.
Yeah,
if I recall correctly.
And I actually think that it's because, like, some people are gonna say his most recent movie didn't go over as well, but one bad movie doesn't make you a bad director. Fucking Steven Spielberg and Ridley Scott every now and then make a bad movie. Like, one thing doesn't just automatically kill your career. This wasn't a thing, dude. If they can't fucking get anyone to want to stay on and direct The Flash, WB would have jumped at the chance to be able to say Ben Affleck is directing Batman. So I actually think it's a good move. Assuming this movie ever fucking happens, I'm not assuming anything's gonna happen at Warner Brothers right now. It is a giant mess.
I know. I was gonna say, do you have any predictions who you think they might bring in, or who you'd like to see them bring in?
Batman is such a weird choice because when you think about it, Batman Begins and Dark Knight are fantastic Batman movies, but I never in a million years would have said we should get Christopher Nolan to direct Batman because it was such an off-the-wall choice. So at this point, at this point, I would almost recommend picking an unknown who they feel has a good shot at making it their own.
But an unknown scoring Batman at the same time.
It's tough
because that's literally the one moneymaker that DC, WBDC has.
But when you think about it, Christopher Nolan wasn't exactly Christopher Nolan the way we think he is when he got Batman at the
That's true.
beginning. So I have no idea. Do you have any ideas of who you'd like to see?
I really couldn't think of anyone.
It's really hard. You know what? I actually have a name I might throw out too. Stephen DeKnight, the guy who was a showrunner for season 1 of Daredevil. As far as I'm
Okay.
concerned, one of the best Batman properties I've ever seen is season 1 of Daredevil. So I could get behind him. He's currently doing Pacific Rim 2, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
If he wrapped that up, I wouldn't have an issue with Stephen DeKnight actually taking over the project. So that'd be my kind of off the top of my head answer.
Yeah, I could see that. Shouldn't be too hard to translate.
Right.
What? This one can see?
He's just, instead of throwing billy clubs, he's now throwing batarangs. I can do that. All right, let's get to the big news, Ron. Peter Capaldi has announced he will be leaving Doctor Who with Stephen Moffat following the Christmas special of 2017.
Called it. Skype high five.
Skype high five. At the same time, I'm kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because his Doctor started out rocky, I think to no fault of his own. I just think the writers really did him a disservice his first season.
I told you I did not like Capaldi's Doctor, but I wasn't saying I didn't like Capaldi. Like you said, they were trying to go for lovable asshole, and they just hit asshole pretty much in series 9. I believe.
As far as I'm concerned, he wasn't even the lead character of that season. They were so focused on Clara and Danny Pink. Yeah. The Doctor
That was 9, right?
I believe you're right.
Yeah. And then 10, they finally hit their stride.
The last season with him and Clara, to me, is the best season they've had since the reboot. Just consistently from top to bottom, it was so good.
So their weakest episode in that season was like an 8 for me.
I mean, the guitar in the tank, the Davros stuff, all the stuff with Missy, the confession dial episode is maybe the best episode they've ever done.
Oh my god.
The C Lab episodes that you and I referred to them as were really fucking cool and kind of creepy.
And very much what you think of with time travel.
It was just so phenomenal. I will be sad to see him go, but at the same time, I'm absolutely fascinated to see what they do now. Why don't you give us really quickly run through his quote on the announcement?
Okay, so from the Doctor himself, Peter Capaldi, one of the greatest privileges of being Doctor Who is to see the world at its best. From our brilliant crew and creative team working for the best broadcaster on the planet to the viewers and fans whose endless creativity, generosity, and inclusiveness points to a brighter future ahead. I can't thank everyone enough. It's been cosmic. Only Capaldi would end with "It's been cosmic."
Yeah, what's kind of cool is he almost talks like he's the Doctor, you know.
Matt Smith does that a lot too.
Yeah, it's like they spend so much time delving into those characters, and they're so well chosen for the role that they when they end up leaving, they still kind of talk like the Doctor.
Yeah,
it will be a shame. Did you want to also include Stephen Moffat's quote? I think his is a little bit shorter.
Yeah, that's about the same. But his is, while Capaldi's was gracious, Stephen Moffat's is, I think, just a touch probably more nostalgic, because Stephen Moffat was such a huge fan, I've heard him say before, of Doctor Who coming into it. But for years before I ever imagined being involved in Doctor Who, or had ever met the man, I wanted to work with Peter Capaldi. I could not have imagined that one day we'd be standing in the TARDIS together. Like Peter, I'm facing up to leaving the best job I'll ever have, but knowing I do so in the company of the best and kindest and cleverest of men makes the saddest of endings a little sweeter. Spoken like a true writer.
Because what's crazy when you think about it is, like, Capaldi has been associated with the show as the Doctor for 3 years, and probably some change depending on how long it'll not, taking them to get everything wrapped up. But you think of the time investment you have as just being the Doctor for 3 years. Stephen Moffat has been in the writer's room at the bare minimum since the beginning of the reboot, because he had episodes. Some of the very best Russell T Davies ran episodes were ones written by Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, and he's been showrunner since series 5 when Matt Smith took over.
So he had 3 years with Matt Smith, and he'll have 3 years. So he'll have ended up being the showrunner of the show for what, 6 years?
6 or 7, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, you can almost add up the Christmas specials as being like a full other season because they end up putting so much effort and time into them.
Yeah. Christmas special is a big deal for a Doctor Who cast.
For sure. Like, it shows it too because they're both leaving on the Christmas special as their last episode.
And it was the only thing we got this year since everything's in such disarray. The one thing that made damn sure we got was a Christmas special.
So just think of, the time investment of being a writer from season 1 to being a showrunner to being because like he always wanted to be, I think he said since he was a little kid, he's always wanted to run Doctor Who, and not only write it but run the show. And to be able to say that he brought to life 2 of the Doctors and so many of the best companions and so many of their best villains are Stephen Moffat. So it's such a huge legacy they're leaving behind.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he created some of the most memorable stuff. The Weeping Angels are his creation, aren't they?
Yeah, the Weeping Angels. Are You My Mummy? The gas mask guys were him. The Vashta Narada, the piranha type thing in the air.
And River is his creation too, right?
River was his. He co-created Jack Harkness with Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
The Silence were his. It's the list goes on.
Some of their most iconic villains now are pretty much out of his mind.
Matt Smith and Capaldi's Doctors were his.
He's the Del Toro of Doctor Who.
It's absolutely crazy the legacy he'll leave behind. That'd be a hard job to leave because it's rough on you on the schedule, I imagine, but we've always talked about one of the best things about Doctor Who is it can go on forever.
Yeah.
They're passing it on. We don't know who the Doctor is going to be. I will bet you my life savings, all $7.45 of it, that it is going to be a woman. But they're passing on. We do know for sure the showrunner is going to be Chris Chibnall. Did you want to include his quote real quick?
This was my favorite quote. I've loved Doctor Who since I was 4 years old, and I'm relishing the thought of working with the exceptional team at BBC Wales to create new characters, creatures, and worlds for the Doctor to explore. Stevens achieved the impossible by continually expanding Doctor Who's creative ambition while growing its global popularity. He's been a dazzling and daring showrunner, and hearing his plans and stories for 2017, it's clear he'll be going out with a bang, just to make my life difficult.
I think Doctor Who is in really good hands because
I think so also.
I know you haven't gotten to watch it yet, but Broadchurch's a really, really great show.
Yeah, and Chris wrote some of the best episodes of Doctor Who also. 42, I know, was his.
Love it.
Let me look up real quick just to throw out
some of his other episodes.
Yeah, because I was looking it up the other day.
I forget. He might have actually written the C-Lab ones.
I believe he did.
I can't remember.
That's what I was wanting to say, but I didn't want to say it until I looked it up, Geoff.
Spoilers, Geoff.
Yeah, Series 3, he wrote 42. In Series 5, he wrote The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Series 7, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, he wrote. The Power of 3, and The Magician's Apprentice. So he did not do the C-Lab one, but The Magician's Apprentice was the, you have a 10,000 to 1 chance of survival, and the 1 is all you need. That's his.
Fuck, yes. Yeah, that's a good variety, too, that shows he can hit, a lot of the different bases.
Oh, yeah, dude. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship was, absolutely ridiculous, and I'm not knocking the episode. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
That whole episode was just kind of upside down, topsy-turvy. He's running around with Cleopatra and all these other characters on a spaceship chasing dinosaurs. To 42, which explored some dark areas, psychologically, and it was in real time. The episodes were about 42 minutes long.
One of my absolute favorite concepts is running shit in real time. It's Always Love 24. There's an episode of, I think, the Justice League cartoon that runs in real time I always really liked.
Yeah, the Joker's the villain on that one.
I think it's in really good hands, and I'm speculating, you and I are both in agreement, we would be absolutely stunned if it's not a woman who he picks as his next Doctor.
Yes.
If they actually make it another dude, the shitstorm
Oh,
that
I
is going to
know.
happen is going to be brutal. And I would give you really, really good odds. I think the next Doctor, if there's one actress in the world he's going to have complete trust in, it's the one that gave him a career, and that is the main actress from Broadchurch, Olivia Colman. She's fresh off a Golden Globe for The Night Manager. Getting a Golden Globe winning actress as the Doctor would be a very, very strong strong stance for them, for picking their first female actress for the Doctor. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I would actually be really curious to see, because like what I think if they ended up going with her is I think she'll end up being a little bit like she is in Broadchurch. Like she's very sarcastic in both The Night Manager and Broadchurch, and
Mhm.
kind of making her kind of like a super sarcastic, kind of older Mary Poppins type Doctor. I could get behind that. I think it'd be a really,
Yeah.
really cool choice. So I'm just fascinated to see, because this is potentially like a make or break point in this reboot of Doctor Who that we're currently in. As it,
I don't think it would necessarily break it, but it would hurt pretty bad. I think if they cast another man, just because the times we live in right now, the hottest thing on television and movies right now is a female lead.
yep.
One thing that you and I have talked about off mic before that was an interesting concept that it really didn't occur to us until recently is the current companion is going to be a woman. So I think what will happen if she stays on through the new Doctor, that they will introduce a second companion that's probably a man just to offset. But I,
Yeah, I,
you and I
I,
have called in the past that the next Doctor will be a woman. We just didn't know who at the time. Now we're calling. Was Olivia Colman is her name? The Coleman part, I always want to say Munn, just because that's the first name that pops to my
oh
head.
yeah.
Um, but so I agree with you 100% that that's the most likely candidate. We were talking about that, and then there's the article that popped up with David Tennant said,
Yeah.
"Oh, Olivia Colman would be good for this."
Because there are, first of all, too, Chris Chibnall is buddies with David Tennant from Broadchurch.
Hmm.
There's a better chance that David Tennant can come back for stuff now, even if
Yes.
odds and ends. It'd be really, really cool. And I can guarantee you, Chibnall, David Tennant, and her have had conversations about this very topic you and I are talking about right
Oh,
now
I
on the
guarantee you.
set. Because
They're probably Skyping together right now.
Because the thing is it makes absolute sense from him as a writer and as a showrunner standpoint, and it makes absolute sense for her because Olivia Colman right now is like a really, really big star for film and TV show geeks. But if she
Right.
becomes the first female Doctor, she makes history. She is immediately, after one announcement, a household name.
Right.
All she has to do at that point is just do the show for 3 years, and then she's made history. Like it's
And the other thing that makes sense on it too is since they've worked together, I mean, you can imagine being a writer yourself. If you're writing a part for a character and you know the person, you've worked with them in the past, what they're like and what their acting style and everything is, it would be so much easier to even write the character. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
it
like you
makes
said,
perfect sense.
David Tennant, like you said, came out and kind of championed her for the role.
And
So
he was voted a few years ago, even over the Fourth Doctor, the UK's favorite Doctor.
yeah, David
So
Tennant's everyone's
you've got 10 saying this person.
picker. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I would be okay. I would be absolutely floored if it's like another guy, and I would be pretty surprised if it's not her, just because every indicator is pointing towards Olivia Colman being your next Doctor.
We're 1 for 3, Geoff.
Yep.
Oh, we
That's,
called Capaldi leaving. Impending female Doctor announcement coming soon. Olivia Colman.
mark it down. Now we're gonna be wrong on fucking everything. All right. I think that's a wrap for our news. Do you want to jump into our discussion for the week, Ron?
Yes.
Okay. Today's topic, it's pretty general, but we're going to go into more specifics. It is basically going to be our discussion of our favorite sci-fi concepts and the way they've been used in specific properties. So I will actually start us off because it makes a very good segue. The first one I wanted to talk about, and what I would say is maybe the smartest concept I've ever seen in science fiction, is actually Doctor Who's regeneration concept.
Yes.
because
That's a pretty strong one.
Doctor Who started the day after JFK was assassinated. That is how long Doctor Who has been ongoing. And that is purely based off the genius of him being able to regenerate into different people.
Yes.
It just fucking stroke of brilliance. Like,
oh my God. It's any writer's, any showrunner's dream, because one of the biggest things that can kill a show or movie franchise is casting changes. You have an in, like you have built in a redundancy in your own show.
And he doesn't even have to be a dude.
Yeah. Dude,
yeah.
We saw with Missy that male can become female, so we're assuming that can also go the other way. And then one of the characters in the show last season was an old white dude, and when he regenerated, he was a young black woman. So race and everything.
Can you imagine how funny the dialogue is going to be when he first regenerates into a woman? He's like, oh, these are new.
Right.
It is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see what they do with that concept going forward. But what's the first concept you'd like to talk about?
First concept that I'd like to talk about, just continuing the theme of There Will Be Expletives Doctor Who edition, is I actually am a big fan of the sonic screwdriver.
Okay, that's a very, very, very strong choice.
It's funny because it's his go-to tool, right? And it can do just about anything he needs or wants, but it has its own limitations. It can only take things so far. So it's not like his one go-to solve everything. It's just a tool that he uses. It's not the thing that saves the day all the time.
My favorite thing about the sonic screwdriver is actually something I'd never thought of until I believe it was Stephen Moffat who did the kind of little essay on the sonic screwdriver about how it's so thematic to his character, because what he uses to save the day isn't a weapon, it's a tool to fix things.
Exactly.
And the way that he worded that, I was like, Stephen Moffat, there's a reason that you are writing this show, because that is genius, and I never in a million years would have thought about that, but it's so fucking true.
That same thing that you're referencing, the reason why Doctor Who in general, not to get off topic too far, the reason Doctor Who is so awesome in general is in that same document that you're talking about. I don't remember if it was a thing he wrote or an interview, but in that same thing, he said that the reason Doctor Who always appealed to him as a child is he's a superhero, but he uses his intellect. He doesn't fight. Most of the time, he's running from the fight, but he outsmarts everyone, and he never throws a punch or anything. It's always intellect. So yeah, that one told me that Moffat needed to be writing Doctor Who at the time. But yeah, the sonic screwdriver, man, their continuity seems to change all the time on how it works. But for the most part, like if I could have one thing that's not the TARDIS, it would probably be the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, we're talking really quickly while we're talking Doctor Who. Anyone who ever brings up that conversation of what's the best spaceship to have, it is no fucking contest. The TARDIS is the size of a fucking infinitely huge city. It's condensed.
It's its own universe.
It's its own universe, and it can fucking time travel. I'm sorry, the Starship Enterprise doesn't compare to that. Come on, guys.
And he always says it's nearly indestructible, too. The War Doctor used it as a weapon. He rammed Daleks with it, and they exploded.
His ship is a fucking character too. Like,
yes, it's a living creature. So yeah.
Makes me really want to watch that Neil Gaiman episode. What's the Doctor's wife? Is that the name of?
Yes.
I love that fucking episode so much.
That episode is so great. There was something else I was going to say about the sonic screwdriver that I had in my head.
I always like how it doesn't work on wood.
Huh?
It's like you cannot unlock a fucking deadbolt with it.
Right. To your point, he doesn't use a weapon. He uses a tool. One of the best lines John Hurt ever had as the War Doctor was, "Why do you two keep pulling out your screwdrivers? What are you gonna do? Build a cabinet at them?" He's like, "It's a scientific instrument."
Or what's that scene where they keep trying to figure out how they can get the door unlocked. And then Claire
Yes.
just walks in. It's like there's like 3,000 years worth of you in here, and you never thought to. None of you thought to actually open the door.
Open the door. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
But
it.
yeah, no, a sonic screwdriver. I mean, dude, he lights fires with it. He reprograms computers with it. I mean, the thing is just absolutely amazing.
Here's a question. What's been your favorite sonic screwdriver you've seen?
9/10. They had the same one.
My favorite has always been Matt Smith's green one.
See, I like the green LED, but the one that Eccleston and Tennant had was pretty sexy looking. To me, the one that Matt Smith had, and the one that Capaldi's going to have, I guess has since he had it in 2 Christmas specials now. That's when I start like, come on, guys, just because you're a sci-fi TV show, it doesn't have to look like 1960s sci-fi prop. You know what I mean?
But I kind of find that endearing about it. I kind of go the opposite way. I'm just complete. My favorite color is green, so just a green sonic screwdriver glow always kind of appealed to me. But
yeah, no, love the sonic screwdriver. What do you got? We've been going like 20 minutes on the screwdriver.
Okay, we could go on and on about how time travel is used in Doctor Who, but I wanted to talk specifically a different sci-fi film's usage of time travel, and that is Loopers. Looper using time travel as a way for gangsters to eliminate of the body.
It makes no sense, but it's amazing.
Was the most genius, simple thing I think I've ever seen in the last like 10 years or so of sci-fi. Because it's like, and then not only like that would have been cool in and of itself, but the fact that they loop themselves, the last thing they do is kill themselves.
Yeah.
Fucking love Ryan Johnson, dude. I always loved that concept, but I didn't really have a whole lot more to add to that other than I wanted to give Looper a shout out because, good God, if you haven't seen Looper, Looper is one of the best sci-fi movies of the last like 10 years or so. It's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, Looper was a really good movie, and yeah, that was a really interesting concept that kind of blew me away a little bit when I saw the movie.
It's so simple that I have no idea how it was never used until then. It's so simple.
Yeah. My next one, I'd probably say, just because of the one scene in the movie that makes it all worth it, because they show this thing like 2-3 times throughout the movie. The fucking gun from The Fifth Element that was like an entire arsenal of weapons.
That's a good call.
Yeah, that thing, like it looked like something out of Mega Man or something, and then it opens up and it's got fucking missiles and rockets. It's got a flamethrower. It can freeze stuff. It's got a net launcher, machine gun, and then you have Gary Oldman, a true cold-blooded killer, would have immediately asked about the little red button on the bottom of the gun, and you see the guy push it and just blows everyone to smithereens because it self-destructs. But
so good.
Yeah, I always thought that was a really cool weapon. And Adam Savage, I think, even tweeted fairly recently his recreation of it. He built one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
I think he even showed it to Kevin Smith in their IMDb interview, actually, now that I think about it.
I'd believe it.
But yeah, I always thought that was a really cool concept. And, if simple, a bit ridiculous, but really cool concept, because it's just a whole arsenal.
Yeah, it's over the top, but it's super fun.
Yeah.
My next one is a generalized concept, but my favorite use of it will not surprise you. I love in sci-fi things, or even generalized fiction that uses the same type of concept, but when you don't know who is the thing because the thing can camouflage itself, and my example was John Carpenter's The Thing.
Right.
Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just had one like that. I fucking love that concept, dude.
Yeah.
I love just because you can just have constant tension for like an hour and a half worth of movie just based off of that concept.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool one. And The Thing, that's like the quintessential version of what you're talking about. Like
the blood test scene.
Oh God, so intense. And and everyone that you think it's gonna be does not react. Shield has actually done that 2 or 3 times, and they've done it well every time, but they do it better every time that
Each
they do
time.
it.
Yeah.
They're really, really getting good at that concept. This one, for me, my next one, probably going to surprise you a little bit, and not to turn this into a Doctor Who fan cast.
Oh my god, I'm so sick of talking about Doctor Who.
But the only reason that this is even in my list was an episode of Doctor Who. Artificial Gravity.
I don't like Doctor Who. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Mine's not in this room, but I have the same one. Um,
I'm a sucker for artificial gravity too. The one I always think about is the I guess now the 3 new Star Trek movies always seem to have awesome scenes where the Enterprise is crashing sideways and they're all falling sideways to the ship.
The thing that kind of blew me away, like you were talking about, if it's crashing sideways, everybody kind of lists to one side like they're actually on a ship in the ocean. But the episode that has Ian Glenn in it from Game of Thrones, it's the Matt Smith,
one of the Weeping Angels
Weeping
episodes.
Angels.
Yeah.
The first time they do the artificial gravity thing, he has them jump at the same time that he fires a gun at this particular moment at this particular thing. That next scene, they're standing upside down on the ship. Like they're like basically on the ceiling of the cave because the ship is on top of it. And his remark was artificial gravity always pulls towards the floor on a spaceship. And I was like, that's an interesting thing because it would, if you thought about that in real life, that's exactly what it should be designed to do. And he uses it as a fucking weapon because the Weeping Angels are draining energy from the ship. That's how they're restoring themselves. And the entire time you forget that the ship is not sitting like this. It's sitting like this.
Yeah.
So he's got them lined up with the chasm that erases them from history. And as soon as they finish draining power from the ship, they just plummet to their death. And he just basically let them kill themselves. And
it's metal as fuck. It's awesome.
It's like the entire time you're just like, oh my God. Like he just used artificial gravity as a weapon. Artificial gravity has never popped in my head as a favorite sci-fi concept at all until that episode.
Yeah.
It was really creatively used.
Yeah, that was really, really creatively used too. And then like the scenes I was talking about in Star Trek, I like how artificial gravity, when people use it like Abrams did, especially like where it's kicking in but turning off repeatedly. So you just see like the characters like there's like, oh thank God it's on, oh God it's off, and they just start sliding, God knows where. You can have a lot of, and it's comedic too because it's kind of it's like slapstick sci-fi kind of.
Right.
It can be used like the Doctor Who way or comedically. It's pretty sweet.
Because like in the past, until fairly recently, in the past it was always artificial gravity's on, everybody's standing. It's off, they're floating, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
It was never that big of a thing. But yeah. Recently it's been pretty creatively used. I
110% agree. That's a really, really good inclusion. My next one is another kind of generalized sci-fi concept, but I've dubbed it in my list as dream state sci-fi. Anything having to do with the mind is Geoff Crack. And the first example I included is The Matrix.
What the reason I'm laughing is I've been going back through all the old South Parks. Today I just watched the Oculus Rift one.
I fucking love that episode so much. But yeah, like The Matrix is, it's obviously more well known for just its straight up, crazy ass action scenes, but the concept behind The Matrix is actually really cool and doesn't get the credit I think it deserves because there is in the first movie, there's a fundamental. It's kind of cool because the character motivations. It makes you think, what would you do?
Yeah.
Because you're living in the Matrix, and the Matrix works just like regular old boring everyday life. And if you escape the dream, you have fucking crappy ass cardboard flavored oatmeal. And I forget what they're called, but those crazy ass robots trying to murder you all the time.
Dude, those things were terrifying when I was a kid.
So it's like when I watched The Matrix, and when I was a little kid and I've watched it for the first time, I was like, oh, this is awesome. They're just beating the shit out of each other. But when you really analyze the sci-fi concepts behind it, you're like, I think I would actually just stay in The Matrix. I would just be a zombie.
Yeah.
I would just rather, because it's a cool kind of morality tale of, like, are you being a bad person for not wanting to live in a crappy existence? You know what I mean?
And it's like at the same time, it's like, how can anyone blame you for wanting to stay
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
Matrix? Yeah, it's no,
The other
the overall concept of the movie is pretty well done. I would say, because the way that, like you said, the way it's written, the way that it's presented to the audience with the red pill and the blue pill, and
it's so slick. It is still
yeah,
slick
it's
to this
so well
day.
done.
And then my other one that I wanted to include was actually Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It has some
Okay.
of my absolute favorite scenes of, science fiction that is taking place within the mind, because are you aware of what Eternal Sunshine's about?
No, I've never
Vaguely.
seen it.
Okay, basically Eternal Sunshine in Eternal Sunshine, scientists have developed a way for you to specifically go in and erase memories you don't want to have anymore. So
Okay.
what happens is Jim Carrey and, oh god, Kate Winslet, they have had this awful breakup where each of them are basically devastated. So what they
Mhm.
do is each one of them goes individually. They go to uh I can't remember if they both do or if it's just Jim Carrey, but Jim Carrey has basically gone in and has told them, I want this whole relationship erased from my memory. I don't want to remember her anymore because the memories are too painful. So what happens is he gets plugged into the machine and they're erasing his memories, and the perspective changes from the outside world with Jim Carrey, with the other characters. Mark Ruffalo is one of the scientists who's
Mm.
actually performing the procedure on him. It switches their perspective to Jim Carrey while he's in his memories that are being erased, and they have actually fucked up the machine. It's starting to erase other memories.
Oh.
So you see Jim Carrey actually. There are scenes where he's running as a little kid. They have this really cool scene where you see Jim Carrey full sized, but he's actually been placed under this gigantic table to replicate him being a little kid, where he's actually reliving a memory from when he was a child. And one of my
Mhm.
absolute favorite scenes of the movie too is later on in the movie, while he's experiencing all of these memories being deleted, Inception shit starts happening. So the first time he meets Kate Winslet's character is in like a Barnes and Noble, right? It's in a bookstore.
Mhm.
Well, he's in the aisleway when he first meets her. He meets Kate Winslet in the movie, and to simulate that this memory's being deleted, the overhead breakers start flipping in the bookstore. So he
Mm.
actually starts running away from the opposite side of the bookstore as his memory's being deleted, and it's just stuff like that. It's so wonderfully done with the cinematography, and I'm not really a big sucker for romantic comedies because that's a little bit what it is, but it's more of like a romantic dramedy, I guess, is like the term you
Uh-huh.
call it. It's such a wonderfully done mind fuck of
I
a
never
movie.
saw it because when you see an actor bending over and talking out of his ass, it's kind of hard to take him seriously in a serious movie.
It is such a good movie, though. It is so good. What's your next one?
um, semi-sentient, like vehicles, basically. The one that you're probably more familiar with at the moment would be like Voltron,
Fuck yes, I am.
where the lions they're a vehicle and the pilot has the say so and he's piloting them, but they're also semi-sentient and they can act on their own and they have to mesh with their pilot or it just doesn't work. I always got the feeling that the Zords and Power Rangers were a bit that way too, a
I
little
can see
bit.
that.
um I don't think they ever say that. It feels like it's alluded to because they have good Zords and they have evil Zords, which would insinuate that they're semi-sentient also.
Mhm.
But I always thought that was a neat concept, just in its own, that you can't, no, not just anyone can drop in and pilot the thing. you know it has to be someone that can actually bond with and form a relationship with the vehicle.
You know what that makes me think of? It wasn't in my list, but I want to add it really quickly. Pacific Rim, I actually kind of liked how in order to pilot the gigantic ass mechs, you needed 2 people, and if you don't, it fucks you up.
When I heard Del Toro talking about that to Chris Hardwick the first time before the movie came out, I was like, what the fuck? Really? Like that the concept, the way he described it, something about it didn't work for me. But when I saw the movie, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's actually really cool the way it's done.
What's pretty cool too is that it gives you a weakness. Like it's one of the things you and I always talk about with Spider-Man and his web shooters. While I always have said he not only is I'm a purist for Spider-Man and he originally started with web shooters, I think he should stick with web shooters, but it actually gives him a weakness. That gives the pilots in Pacific Rim a weakness too, because if their co-pilot gets fucked up or incapacitated, it will kill them if they continue piloting the thing for too long. So
Right.
you can add some tension within the cockpit, of this gigantic S. So it's like you have a danger outside the cockpit and within the cockpit too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. There's just something about that always appealed to me. Probably just because I appeal, giant robots in general appeal to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's yours? What's your next one?
Let's see. This is another kind of just generalized one, but I have some specific examples within it. Allegorical sci-fi. I think sci-fi is at its absolute best when you can actually apply it to real-world problems. Like the first one I actually wrote down, there's a strong reason why 1984 is the #1 best-selling book on Amazon right now because of the current state of the shit world we live in. Fahrenheit 451 stuck with me when I read it in high school because it's the concept of, so much of what makes you a person is what you choose to occupy your free time with.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is completely removed, if you and I didn't have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Doctor Who or Batman or Spider-Man, it's like so much of your personality relies into your forms of entertainment, and if that's just all gone, like what is left of you basically.
Right.
District 9 is a badass action movie that has a whole hell of a lot to say, but it does it in a smart, subtle way. It's not as in your face as it could have been about, like it's, like they have racist terms for the aliens. They are more of a nuisance. They are not viewed as, they are viewed as a pest. They are not viewed as like a life form. There's a lot that it has to say. And then the last one I wanted to include, and what I think might end up being the most important movie of the century, is Children of Men.
Okay.
When you just break down how fucking prescient that movie is, I wanted to, okay, Children of Men, its main 2 concepts outside of, like the not being able to have children. Britain is in political boundary shambles and immigration's illegal. What does that make you think of, Ron?
Yeah.
It is insane how
I need to go back and watch Children, man. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's a damn good movie.
My main takeaway from talking about sci-fi is Children of Men. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. If you have seen it, watch it again because it will blow your mind. It just hit its 10th anniversary. It will blow your mind how relevant it is to the world we live in right now. And I was absolutely floored by just how good it was.
I don't know how much far longer we want to go.
Yeah,
I think
this is a fun conversation. Fuck it, just keep going.
Just keep going? Okay. Because I'm saving my absolute favorite one for last. I was never a huge fan of cloaking technology because most of the time in anything sci-fi, just like fucking time travel, it's either used very poorly or it's a cop-out.
The Flash.
and then I saw Predator.
Fuck yes. Dude, I knew exactly as soon as you said cloaking where this was gonna go.
That was fucking terrifying, right? Because especially that scene when the first time you get, I guess you could say, a good look at him, where just the eyes flash from the mask and everything else is just the outline of him. Like what I guess blew me away about that more than anything, other than the movie being what it was the fact that it wasn't perfect cloaking, right? You never really saw it to that point not perfect cloaking. He had a bit of a weakness,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he's camouflaged. It
It's
was more
actually
like it was optical camouflage. It wasn't necessarily cloaking.
yeah, it was instead of him being straight up fucking invisible, it was kind of like reflective camouflage, like the way that we're actually designing it right now in real life. Like it was
Yes.
pretty yeah.
Yeah, I think the term they use for it is optical camouflage. Whereas most of the time in movies and stuff, what you saw was more like the Invisible Man. You never really saw anything like that, and just the way it was done too was just incredibly creepy. When you just see this little outline in the jungle, and yeah. um, my my all-time favorite's going to kind of tie back into Predator a little bit later too, but yeah, no, cloaking technology was always up there with time travel to me
Until it was done really well.
until it was done really well.
I really want to watch Predator now.
Oh, dude, I just went through the Alien movies, so Predator's next.
Predator's next. How many did they have a movie in between Predator 2 and Predators? I mean, not counting like the AVP ones, like just straight up Predator. Like,
nope. Predator 2 kind of killed the franchise, unfortunately, which I never really understood. I liked that
I didn't
movie.
think it was. I mean, it's not nearly as good as the first one, but I don't think it was bad.
Yeah, a lot of people, it just bombed at box office. Everything that I understand about Predators is that it was originally titled Predator 3 and was pretty much written the same time as Predator 2. But Predator 2 bombed so bad, they just threw it on the shelf. And then, however many years later, they dusted it off and updated it and renamed it. So, yeah.
That Shane Black Predator movie that might have Thomas Jane in it. Give me that movie now.
Yeah, I want
it
that
is going to
so
be
bad,
so
dude.
good. I want it real bad.
Yeah, when we get to creature concepts, we're really going to delve into Predator.
Hell yes, we are. I'm done with my list if you want to just keep going.
Okay. Well, if you're done with yours, I'll just go ahead and throw out my all-time
Well,
favorite thing.
how many more did you have? We're already over time. This is a fun conversation.
So, I mean, I can come up with them all day, but sci-fi is kind of my jam. So, but my all-time favorite one, though, and I don't know how much this is going to surprise you or not, but I don't really give two shits about virtual reality, but augmented reality has like endless uses. I always loved the concept of augmented reality or AR. Predator uses it to terrifying extent with his mask and like the cannon on his shoulder and stuff. You see it in everything, though. I mean, absolutely everything.
I want the Iron Man technology where I can just swipe my Gmail shit out of the way. I really want that.
But yeah, just give me AR. Fuck VR. Give me AR.
Well, I kind of want both, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I don't want to be a glass hole or anything, but give it to me in some kind of fashion that's actually feasible. But yeah, medical, military, educational uses, everything.
It's just a matter of time.
Fucking Batman Beyond, he's got AR. I mean, come on.
It's just a matter of time.
I know.
They're getting that. It's just.
But I want it now, Geoff.
Part of the problem too. What was the name of that Microsoft HoloLens?
HoloLens, yeah.
Like the fucking dev kit price for that shit was like $5,000.
Yeah.
How is that ever going to work, Microsoft? Like,
yeah.
What is your actual fucking problem? Like, you thought that was gonna work? Because you haven't heard Microsoft say the word HoloLens since they announced that price point, because it's no longer a thing because of it.
It's kind of disappeared a little bit. Yeah, the HoloLens had its ups and downs, but that was fucking ridiculous. I don't know what the shit's wrong with Microsoft these days, dude.
Yeah, that we could do an entire podcast about Microsoft.
We probably should just vent.
Yeah, just bring it.
So much of our YouTube channel depends on Microsoft. It's just like, fuck all of you.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we can get Discord to actually get off their ass and make that video capability, we'll be saying bye bye to Skype at least. So,
Yeah, for sure.
did you have any other ones you wanted to add?
No, I mean, like I said, I can.
Yeah, we
do this all day
we could shoot the
long,
shit on sci-fi all day long because
but- Oh, yeah.
science fiction is kind of the bread and butter of the podcast. Honestly,
You know what? We wrote down sci-fi concepts, but we never talked about fantasy concepts. We should add that bullet point
you
sometime.
gonna do a fantasy one?
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
I mean, the two biggest things that you and I are into, and we only wrote down one of them. You know.
Yep.
So yeah, I actually though originally we had sci-fi concepts, and then we added creature concepts later. So I actually had to remove one of my sci-fi concepts and change
To leave
it
it
Yeah.
for that. I
Yeah.
just compiled my sci-fi list the last couple days, so I need to start on my creature list so I have it ready so I don't forget shit. Honestly, that it will also be half Doctor Who because most of my favorite creature concepts are fucking Stephen Moffat's shit. But yeah, if you what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, did you tell me that the next Alien movie's in May?
Yep.
And not on Alien Day, April 26th?
That was a missed opportunity.
What the actual fuck?
Did it not land on? I'm checking the calendar now. Let's see.
Dude, something like that, it don't fucking matter. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a
They do
Wednesday.
movie releases on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Not in
Fuck it.
April, but they do movie releases on Wednesdays.
That would have been pretty cool. Maybe one day it'll actually land on a Friday where they can have LV426.
I bet you Blomkamp's. I know how to say his name. I can never say it though.
I think Neil
my
Neil
mouth doesn't work,
Blomkamp.
though. Blomkamp or the day. I
I,
don't know.
I think you got it. You got it. Yeah.
But his might.
If it ever
whenever it
actually fucking happens. Like every time I hear about that movie, it's like, check out our concept art. Isn't it
Right.
cool? Like, make the fucking movie. I want to watch your movie. Yeah. If you like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. That gets you all of our content. Not only do we do a weekly vodcast over the news, we also have Let's Plays. Any ETA and when we might be having our Dark Souls vids start going up.
I hope to start on those this weekend. So
Yeah, we have some.
maybe one up on. I guess it'd be Tuesday the 7th. I'm looking to have one up
So
at least.
yeah, be on the lookout for those. We also have. Sorry, your video cut out. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Full on
We're
sprint
good.
mode. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. We have not only do we have the Let's Plays, make sure to check out our social media links. We have Facebook and Twitter below. If you would like to check out some of my articles, I'm actually writing weekly gaming. We never talk fucking gaming news on here, so I was like, well, I'll go write gaming news for a website. Check out rageselect.com every Thursday. I have gaming articles that are going to be going up this week. I covered Nintendo Super Bowl commercial for the Switch, which was pretty fun to write.
And you're knocking that out of the park too, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It has been
really well done.
It has been a lot of fun. Hoping to do. I am not looking forward to E3 though. We mentioned earlier because I'm gonna be having to write shit for that and for the vodcast because you and I we don't fully cover video games usually, but when E3 happens, we have an entire podcast dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time we just basically spent the whole time bitching about No Man's Sky. So I'm a little sad we need to actually get No Man's Sky 2 announced. That way we can bitch about it all over again.
We just need to pick a random property at E3 and just bitch about it for no reason.
Yeah. It's like this year's No Man's Sky award goes to this.
Pretty much.
The No Man's Sky award is the worst in show. That's the name of the worst in show award.
Dude, I just want to watch the honest trailer for No Man's Sky now. Starring Rocks.
Starring Buyer's Remorse.
Yes.
And then most importantly, if you know anyone else that might also enjoy our content, we would greatly appreciate you sharing us out. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And we will see you guys next week.